Welcome to the lifestyle segment of the Weekend Show. World Disability Day 2024 was celebrated this week, and the theme was Amplifying Leadership for an Inclusive and Sustainable Future. A call to action for building a world where everyone has a voice at the table. Speaking of voices at the table, joining us, we have Comfort Echo, the Executive Director of Sun Growth Initiative. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, so World Disability Day 2024 was celebrated this week. Could you speak to us about that?
All right, so World Disability Day that was celebrated, and you already said the theme. The theme of this year is amplifying voices of leaders with disabilities for an inclusive and sustainable development. So this is trying to amplify the voices of leaders for an inclusive society so that the future would be better and sustainable for persons with disabilities. And this is a call for action for leaders, governments to begin to look into inclusivity, because we're still struggling with inclusivity in Nigeria. We're trying, but we're not yet there. And for persons with disability to be there, we have to have a total inclusive society, from the structural point of view to the digital literacy, because it is a matter now that we're beginning to talk about digital literacy to be inclusive for persons with disabilities, because we all know now that the world is now a digital space. For anything you are doing now, if you are not there, you may not even know what is happening in the world. And persons with disabilities are very, very marginalized in this space, because we begin to look at accessibility. If you talk about digital literacy, how can a person who is visually impaired use the internet without accessibility? For a person like me, I use screen reader to access the internet. And a lot of things that are out there does not support screen readers. So if I want to do something in the internet, it may be difficult for me. I may begin to look out for somebody to come and help me in this age and time. So we could see that we are still struggling. Even looking at structural accessibilities, we still have a lot of structures that are not accessible for persons with physical disabilities. And now, when we're not looking at leadership in the government aspect, it is still a very, very big struggle for us to have persons with disabilities in politics. And we are now saying that the government should be intentional about all this. You know, they can say persons with disabilities can get tickets for free. I'm talking about the political aspects right now. And if the government are not deliberate about this, we can get the ticket, we can go there, but we may not win. Because discrimination is ideological. It is in people's head that persons with disabilities cannot be leaders, because they are still looking at us from the charity model of disability. So we are calling on the government to be intentional about it. I celebrated the International Day in National Assembly. The event was held by Network of Women with Disabilities, where we had the Deputy Speaker present in that meeting. And that was a conversation that sparked up there, was very, very significant to me, where we begin to table our matter to the government, to tell them that in politics, they have to be intentional by maybe saying so percent should be given to persons with disabilities. We can see that when anytime appointment is being made, when we are being remembered, it's like an aftermath decision, and they'll be like, okay, we need a special advisor to the Minister on Disability Matters, special advisor to the Governor on Disability Matters, special advisor to the President. Like, that is now like the only position that they are allocated to persons with disabilities, which I still think it's still marginalization. So we're beginning to call the government to be intentional about inclusivity.
Okay. What's the role of advocacy in amplifying voices of people with disabilities?
Advocacy is doing a lot, and advocacy is the strongest tool in amplifying voices of leaders with disabilities. Like what we're doing now, this is
Yeah.
an advocacy. And without advocacy, our voice would not be heard. Without advocacy, our plight would not be met. Because if we don't speak about our issues, nobody will know. We wear the shoes, we know where it pinches us. So the only way we can achieve this goal of inclusivity, it is through advocacy, advocacy, and continuous advocacy. By speaking out, raising campaigns, creating more awareness. This is when they will know that, we're not here, because the government may do something and they think they've done it all. They may think this is what we need. But we telling them that, no, it is beyond this. We need more. So advocacy is the strongest tool to me for us getting to where we want.
What are the biggest challenges, in building an inclusive future, particularly when it comes to our society here in Nigeria?
Okay. To me, the biggest challenge is it still boils down to intentionality. Because most times where matters of inclusivity for persons with disability are being talked about, it's when you talk about it in a round space, maybe with stakeholders, they don't really see the reason. To them, most times, it's as if we are just Oliver Twist. We always want more, and they don't really see the necessity of inclusivity. When you talk about restructuring, for us to have access to buildings, and some people may be like, what are we even coming here to do? By the way, people with disability don't come to these places, and it's just that we are not really intentional about it. That is the biggest challenge for me, because if we see the necessity for inclusion, we don't really need to struggle to achieve these things. If people begin to think and begin to understand that disability it's revolving as a human being, if you are still in this world, you can always have disability. In fact, disability even deals with age. We're all young now, we're strong, we're fit. With time, you may not be able to walk on your own. With time, your eyes will begin to depreciate. You may not be able to see. If the government begins to think this way, they will see the need of inclusivity. But because they think it cannot occur to me, it cannot occur to my family member, so why should I do it? If it becomes a deliberate, if it becomes a deliberate matter, if it becomes something they feel, this is an issue of everybody, not just a specific group of people, I think they'll begin to put action into it.
Okay, Albert, thank you very much. So, but before I let you go, what's your advice to Nigerians, our society, on disability inclusion? Because yes, the leaders have a huge role to play, but we as individuals, the everyday people, we also have to create an inclusive society also for people with disabilities. We also have to play our own roles. So what advice do you have to Nigerians just before I let you go?
So my advice to Nigerians is to embrace inclusivity. It's a very, very positive move. It's not going to drag you back, instead it's going to drag you forward. If we look at we don't have inclusive education system in Nigeria. I will call it a segregation system of education, where we still have blind schools, deaf schools. If you are a proprietor, you have your own private school, and you decide to make your school inclusive, that means you gain more students, you gain more recognition, and your school will become something to model.
Yeah.
When you allow students with disabilities to come to your school, you will even gain the attention of international donors. And your school will grow from that local school it is to something very big. If you have a store where you sell cosmetics and you begin to look at diversity, you know that, we have persons with albinism, I should have their products with their skin tones.
Yeah.
You begin to have more customers, and your business is even going to blossom, because people will be like, okay, this is an inclusive store. Let me give an instance with Fenty, products owned by Rihanna. Her cosmetic product is the most inclusive in the world. That is because she recognized diversity. She know we have people with the darkest, people who are very dark, people with albinism, people with different shade, and she incorporated that into her business. And that gave her a very, very big recognition. So we should begin to look at inclusion from a different angle. It is not just persons with disabilities. If you have a business where wheelchair can pass, you begin to have more customers. Because persons with disability, we are not a small group of persons. We are it's a very, very big community. And it's going to help our society to grow. We have a lot of persons with disability who are out of school. We have a lot of persons with disabilities who are unemployed. But if we give inclusion a chance, that means we have more hands in the productive society. That means we have more hands, more people who will contribute to our economic sector. We have more people who would become leaders. We have more people who would become change makers in the society. So giving inclusion a chance is a win-win for everyone. So I want everybody in the society, everybody in Nigeria, to see inclusion as a very, very big and positive change in the society, as it's something we must achieve, to have a total universal society where everyone is being carried along.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Comfort Eko, the Executive Director, Surrey Growth Initiative, on all you've just said about inclusivity and the role leaders have to play and we as Nigerians also have to play. Thank you very much. And happy World Disability Day to you.
Thank you.
Yes, all right. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, and that's it for the lifestyle segment. We still have lots more coming up on the show. Next is sports, so do stay with us.